Hi, everybody. Ellie McGuire here with the Shaking the Bushes podcast. Today's guest, you may know him when you get off a plane at the TF Green Airport in Rhode Island at like 1 a.m. and you hear this piano music. Well, that's who my next guest is. He's the one playing the piano. Piano man Ron Trotta. You gotta tune in. He's got some crazy stories. Woo! Ron Trotta, or should I say piano man Ron Trotta, at the kitchen table of my childhood home. Be still my heart. Or as in Rhode Island E's, be still my hat.
Hello, Ellie.
Hi, Ronnie.
I just delighted to be here today on your podcast. I think it's a fabulous podcast, and I have intimate knowledge of every one of them because I'm usually not sitting here. I'm sitting over there.
I know you're really helping me out. You're behind the scenes, and now you're kind of like Ron Howard or George Clooney. You know, you're doing both. You're acting, you're talking, you're behind the scenes directing.
I've always wanted to direct, but but I guess I'm stuck with performing.
Well, this is great because I have a word that I would use to describe you.
Okay.
And I looked it up in Google Drive because I didn't know if I understood it. Enigma. I think that you are an enigma. And let me just say what Google says about that. A person that is mysterious, puzzling, or difficult to understand. Something that defies easy explanation. I think that is Ron Trotta, piano man Ron Trotta.
I never knew what that word meant.
I didn't either, but
Thank you for telling me that.
Let me explain. Well, the fact that you're here today is just miraculous to me, and I'm honored.
Well, I had to walk all the way from the living room because I live here.
Yes, for those of you who may not know the in-depth relationship, not only is he fabulous piano man, Ron Trotta, who plays at the Rhode Island TF Green International Airport, the longest name for any
They should
airport.
get a new name.
Yeah, but that's another story. But anyway, you play there and everyone knows you from there. But I also know you because we have been engaged for 35 years. Isn't that amazing?
Well, you know, people ask me about that.
Do they?
And they say, why don't you, first of all, they say, why don't you make an honest woman out of her? I've never understood what that means.
I don't either.
What does that mean,
I guess that means not to steal penny
Does
candy.
that mean that you're a dishonest woman now?
It means that I stole something out of the penny candy store or something.
So when they say, why don't you make an honest woman out of her? I say, I don't want to rush into anything because it's 35 years.
Yeah, but see, Ron also defies death because he almost died during COVID, not from COVID-related illness, but from a heart situation that might have been started from COVID. Anyway, I digress. But the bottom line is you screwed that up pretty royally. You said, why aren't you making honest women of me? And you said, because
I don't want to rush into anything.
And that didn't make any sense. So what the story is, and may I clarify.
This has got to go really deep here.
Because of your two brain bleeds, is that people will say, 35 years of being engaged. Well, why don't you guys get married? And we say, because we can't make a commitment. Bada bing.
Bada bing.
Okay, the bada bing didn't work in the honest woman thing.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's why you could tell we hang out together as well.
That's right. That's why I enjoy discoursing with you.
Discoursing with you?
Because you explain to me everything that I screw up.
I guess I do. But you know what I put on the table today, which I've never done before?
Notes?
Is a bell. In case we
the sound guy just went wild on that one.
Yeah, and my dogs just went, what? But in case we get into it, the bell is kind of like the referee.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anyway, I'm glad you're here because if you told me correctly, and of course I live with you, so I understand this, I drove you to the east side of Providence last night for a 40th birthday party.
Yep.
And then you got up this morning and you volunteered playing at a Methodist church that's attached to a food bank that we love.
Yep.
And And then the night before, you were up till 2 in the morning playing
Yep.
at the airport.
Oh,
So
true.
the fact that you're not napping right now is an amazing accomplishment.
Actually, I am napping. I just turned on the autopilot. The rest of me is upstairs in bed. Just kidding.
Oh my God. Well, so we've been together all that time. And I found out about you because when I worked in the sports world, I worked for the Capitol Center in Washington, D.C. for the NBA team. They were the Bullets then, so I'm dating myself. Now they're the Wizards and the Washington Capitals.
Folks, let me just jump in here. Ellie was a suit. She was.
I was a suit.
She was a big corporate suit that I moved to. Well, let me tell you my end of the story, okay?
I didn't finish my end of the
Oh,
story,
you
but
can
that's
finish.
okay.
Go ahead and finish.
No, that's okay. That's
so
okay.
I was living in Montana, and my best friend in the world was a banjo player. His name was Buck Kelly, and I got to give out a shout out to the late Buck Kelly because he was probably the most talented musician I've ever met in my life.
He could play Malaguena on the banjo. That's pretty amazing.
He played Rhapsody in Blue on the banjo, believe it or not. Anyway, Buck was a great pianist, a great entertainer, a great singer, an unbelievable banjo player.
Should I have interviewed him today?
Yes, too bad. Well, you knew him before you knew me.
I did. But where are you going with this,
I'm
Ron
telling my
Trotta?
story. So I'm living in Montana. I used to work with Buck in Colorado, and I lived out west. And I said, I'm never going to move to the East Coast because there's too much asphalt and concrete there. But anyway, Buck convinced me to move to the East Coast, and he got me an audition at a club there, and I got the job there playing in the same club that he did in a different room. And so I would go down on my breaks and listen to Buck Kelly play and entertain. And it was very distracting because there was this woman there in his audience, this suit that came over from D.C. that would play the spoons there, and she would sing, and she would sort of wrangle the room.
Are you talking about me?
And it turned out to be this one.
Yeah,
Yes.
but let me tell you, people would say, "Oh, what are you visiting from New York? Are you on Broadway?" And I'd be like, "No." So I think they enjoyed it. I think you were just jealous, is what I think.
I'm not jealous, and I'm not disputing the fact that you.
That will end that.
Okay.
Okay, so I would bring
So
my
that's how I met Ellie.
and my side of the story is I would entertain all these clients whose wives didn't understand them. Oh, and so I'd go to the game. Then we'd go afterwards in the private club. And then I'd say, and they'd look at me and you could tell they weren't ready to leave. So
Yeah.
I'd say, we can go over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge back into Old Town Alexandria, and I'll bring you to this really cool club, which is where Ron Trotta was playing. And the fact that Ron Trotta took these guys' attention off of me, I'm exhausted, and then put it on him was a glorious thing.
And
And,
then
they'd
some-
sing along, and people, they would stand in line around the club to get into his room. I
was
knew
fun.
the secret doorways.
It was fun. It was the 80s.
And I lived around, yeah, I know, it was fun. And music is just wonderful, you know.
But the greatest thing about it was suddenly Ellie could disappear because she lived next door, and then the guys were stuck and they had to leave anyway. So,
So that's how we met.
yeah,
That's how we met. And then we became friends. And then here we are 35 years later
exactly.
on lots of adventures. I mean,
Lots of
we
adventures.
moved to LA. We cruised for 26 cruises on the Crystal Cruise Line.
Saw the world.
Saw the world,
Yeah.
Thailand and Hong Kong and
Greece.
Australia. And yeah, and then we went to
Greece and-
Greece with a former president and first lady. And they loved us so much that they invited us for another week to stay, and then they invited us to their home. That will all be in my memoir, so we won't go into that too much.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
That's good.
But we've done it all. And then we drove across the country in a 24-foot camper that we had wrapped, and it was called Bark the Vote.
Can I
Not
back
rock,
up on this?
Bark the Vote. Sure.
So Ellie, we got a dog, okay, and we named the dog Schmitty, and then we were living in Manhattan, and 9/11 came, and Ellie, after 9/11, we were both in Manhattan during 9/11, and Ellie wrote a children's book.
No, well, after that, we sold cards and raised money for the Firefighter Scholarship Fund. Do you remember that? Ladder Company number 25. We helped that, and it just started. So all of a sudden, all these little adventures. I think too that I was done with corporate,
Yes,
and I
you were.
wanted to be more creative, and my dog inspired me. Of course, you inspired me too, honey. But anyway, my dog inspired me, and I would come up with ideas. So we got a sponsor and drove across the country in a Bark the Vote van, Pictures will be on my elliemaguire.com website that you can see. That's Ellie with a Y, Maguire with a C.com. Anyway, we drove across the country in a figure eight.
That's
How
right.
long?
We didn't drive across the country. We took a figure eight loop and covered the north, the south, the east, and the west.
We ended up in LA for election
We made it to
day.
LA for election day. It was 2008, and coming back, we broke down. And if you're driving a motorhome in a van and you want to pick a place to break down, I recommend Vail, Colorado.
Best.
Because that's where we broke down.
Just before Thanksgiving, so it was still really cheap. But anyway, we did that. And what we did was we visited shelters, animal shelters, to get, awareness for them. And then we did little interviews in stations all across the country.
And things
And
like that,
all we wanted, it wasn't really political as much as just get out and vote, so we weren't particularly rooting for one person or the other.
Right.
But it was just so much fun. So, but I always think Ron is the one with ADD because he just doesn't stop and then he naps. And you play piano for like 8 hours straight at the airport. I do not understand how you do it. How do you do it?
I have ADD.
Okay. But I think I must have ADD because we went cross country doing that. We went on cruise ships doing that.
Yeah.
And that was because of Milton Berle.
That's true. But let me say one thing. I'm not making fun of people.
See, people are on the edge of their seat about Milton Berle.
Yeah, but I know, but ADD, I do want to respect that is a serious thing. And we're sort of joking about it, but that means...
I'm not joking at all. You have it.
Milton Berle. Let me tell you about Milton Berle. So, can I tell this story?
Sure.
So we had a friend, and well, I'll back up. Ellie decides when we live in LA that we should join the Friars Club. And the Friars Club is a very famous club for entertainers, and they had a branch of the Friars Club in Los Angeles at that time. So we go to the Friars Club, we join the club, I make a friend. My friend's name is Otzi Stein, and Otzi is an auctioneer. And Otzi comes to me one day and he says, Ron, I just bought a piano. I said, well, why didn't you auction it off? He said, well, nobody bid high enough, so I took it home. I said, does anybody play the piano in your house?
A white piano, by the way.
No, the piano was black, but the rest of the house was white.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, I digress. So I said, Otzi, does anybody play the piano in your house? He goes, no, nobody plays the piano. I said, well, why did you get a piano? He says, my wife liked the way it looked. I said, well, I'll play your piano. He goes, you would? I said, sure, I'd be happy to come over and play your piano. He says, well, that's wonderful. So the next day I get a phone call from Otzi's wife. And Otzi's wife says, Otzi says you're going to play our piano. So anyway, long story short.
But we thought just go over and and warm up the keys.
Yeah, but long story longer. So we go to Otzi's house. I'm just going to sort of demo his piano. Walk in and there's 40 people there and they ordered deli and they're having this huge party. And there's a guy playing the banjo and Otzi is doing something on top of the piano with a tape recorder. And so anyway, we ended up playing a 3-hour party. And the next day I walk into the Friars Club and I'm walking around and I hear this music and I say, wait a minute, that's me. And I can't understand why I'm hearing me in the Friars Club. And so I look over and there at a table is Otzi Stein sitting with some guy and Milton Berle. Now,
and one of those booths where you still had the phone on the booth in case he had a phone call. This was way before
they would bring
cell
you
phones.
the telephone when you got your call.
Exactly.
It was so 50s. But anyway.
What?
50s.
Wait a minute. So that's your brain bleed. This was in the 90s.
I was in the 90s.
Because if it was 50s, that would make me much older.
The club was very 50s.
Okay.
Right? So turned out Otzi had recorded me that night and they was playing this tape for Milton Berle and this other guy that was sitting in this booth. Well, it turns out the other guy was the entertainment director for the Crystal Cruise Line. And
very White Glove, very Butler, very CEO-ish kind of cruise line.
And fast forward, he says, oh, this is very nice. He says, I need a guy to play a quick cruise. I had a cancellation. You want to do it? I said, let's talk. And the next thing you know, Ellie and I are on this cruise from like Acapulco to New Orleans.
We weren't really working. We were auditioning all the time. We were doing one of those things, remember?
Yeah.
We went, what the heck? Let's do it for one cruise through the Panama Canal.
Yeah, that's right. And one cruise turned into like 30 or something like that. It was a bunch of them.
Yeah, 27 to be exact. But
I had a thought and I lost it.
Well, because you've had 2 brain bleeds.
Thank you. Yeah, but that was a great thought too.
But you know what's amazing about those brain bleeds? You still have a repertoire of songs in your head that people are mystified when they come down that escalator in the airport. What do you play? What is it you call it?
I play a menagerie of tunes. I call it my escalator overture.
So when they're coming down that escalator, he knows them all. But he knows so many tunes. And before he lost his voice during this horrible hospital stay, for 148 days he was in the hospital. Well, you were in the hospital. You didn't drink a glass of water for 4 months, was it? You didn't, you had a tracheotomy. You were paralyzed. You had 2 brain bleeds. And here he is today because I saved his life and I remind him of it every day.
That's true.
But where were we?
I was trying to remember what I was going to say. Well, I think where we were going, though, we were going to talk about Otzi. We talked about the
Milton Berle. See, this is senior video right now. But what you were talking about? Oh my God, Aaron, do you remember what we were talking about?
The cruises.
The cruises. Okay, yeah. I guess we lost our momentum there.
Yeah,
but there was
the world. We saw the world.
Oh, you said, but I digress, and you were going to jump to someplace else, which we always do.
Yeah, I was. I forgot. No, I was going to jump to Otzi, I think.
No. Oh, maybe. But no. Why would you jump to Otzi? Because he got us the gig. Oh, but I know. But we were in L.A. and we did that and we were acting. And
oh, I know where I was going to jump to.
Okay.
You mentioned that we weren't working.
Oh, we weren't working.
We weren't working. We were doing a lot of auditioning. You know, when you're in LA, that's what you do. You audition.
Wait, we were working. You know what? One of the things we were doing.
Well, that's what I was going to. That's where I was headed.
We were the oldest living interns. We would take people and walk them to their seats and to the bathroom in the breaks of
sitcoms.
Sitcoms. I did Mad About You. You did Friends. How lucky were you?
Friends, yeah.
And you did I think you did another one.
We did the one with the guy who would go, would talk like that, and the macho guy who
Ron Trotta
hit the guy.
I know where I was. Well, we're back to the intern. So we did that.
Yeah.
And you were also the oldest living intern when he got his meteorology degree. He got it the same day his AARP card came in the mail. I think that's the funniest thing.
That's true.
And you were interning at Fox News, the local Fox News station.
That's exactly right.
And you were the oldest intern there too. So we're oldest interns on a lot of things.
We did a lot of interning.
We do everything. We have had such adventures.
Actually, LA was pretty bohemian when you think about it.
Yeah, but I went from corporate, like structure. Did you hear that? Structure. To being, to doing lots of creative things. And I love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but still, we had that corporate thing in our blood because we started a company. Remember in LA?
Yeah. And we sold greeting cards. We sold calendars.
No, not that company.
What one?
In LA, we started a company.
Oh,
you remember that one?
God. So we couldn't get agents. I had an agent, but he never sent me out that much. And I looked him up now that there's Google, because we're talking back in the 90s. He was pretty famous, but, maybe he
Who knew it at the time? He's the guy that said you're in your 30s and all your time.
Dale Garrick, Garrick. That's who he was. I just found his business card. Anyway, so we couldn't get agents, and we had a bunch of people in the building we were living in. We love that on Barrington Avenue in Brentwood. Everybody's an actor. So because I was in sales and I was a former suit, I suited up and we got underground. We got the breakdowns. It's something where every day agents get it and they look at it and they could tell what they need for the day and they submit their clients.
This was very analog. Remember, folks, this is long before the internet.
This is faxing.
This is fax machines.
Fax machines. So the office in the building would have this fax coming out of there. Yeah. They probably use 50 pages a day. We
get this covert fax at 7 and 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Of all the
could have gotten arrested. We could have gotten arrested. We were really covert. But anyway, and I would check out.
Who was auditioning for what shows?
Exactly.
Right.
So that's one of the things we did too. And we started a fake company. It wasn't fake because we really were doing what we're doing.
Well, we had business cards.
It's called International Management. If anyone is listening, we're saluting right now.
We had hats. We had placards on my.
So we could get onto the studios. This is before
I had a Chevy Blazer. We put the placard on the dashboard.
Right.
Drive to the studios. And back in those days, if you had a placard, they'd let you in. That doesn't happen anymore.
So tell the story about the one big gig you got.
Well, okay. So turns out we read the breakdowns that morning, and it said the one production was looking for a one-man band. A one-man band. And I thought I could be a one-man band.
And it was for a show called ER.
Yeah.
Biggest show ever. The guy who was the casting director was as big as George Clooney in the Margulies. Julianne
and Margulies.
and Noel Wiley, who's now in the pit. So anyway, we went, oh my gosh. So we took the hotel rack from the building.
You know the luggage cart.
The luggage cart.
And we mounted a piano stand on it with an electric piano. I got a set of chimes, to play with a drumstick. They go chimes. I got a hi-hat, which is, you don't know what a hi-hat is if you're not a drummer. It's two cymbals that go like this, and you play it with your feet. So with a hi-hat and I put a little PA system on it with a microphone, and I was a band.
He was a band. And so, but this is the best thing. How did we get our headshots and resumes to the particular casting directors?
We had international management contact.
So we had another guy named Chad, who looked like Bob's Big Boy. He was a comedian. We had Anna Lively, who had a great voice, singing voice, and she was like a blonde Lucille Ball. So I had a couple of people, and I said, Ron, you got to go for this. So,
well, it turns out, though, we needed somebody to
deliver
physically deliver the resumes, the headshots to the places. And so that ended up being me, because I had a hat that said international management. And I had a car. I had a car, and I had a placard on the car that says international management. So I would put the hat down over my eyes and drive around to all the studios and find all these different casting directors' offices. But the problem was, for this ER one-man band thing, I was submitting myself.
Which is a big no-no, because you're supposed to have an agent. There's supposed to be a middle person in between the talent and the casting director.
And whenever you go, but we weren't worried, because whenever you do a submission, the casting director's never there. You just put it on the secretary's desk.
There's usually a huge pile.
And you run out.
Right.
So I'm walking to Warner Brothers. I got my international management hat on, and I'm going to submit myself to be a one-man band for ER. And I'm walking down the hallway, and I find the office, and I stick my head around it, and there's a secretary there. I throw it on the top of the pile, and I walk out, and I'm feeling pretty proud of myself. I'm walking down the hall. I get about maybe 20 feet down the hall, and I hear a voice behind me that says, "Hey, you got a one-man band?" And I turn around, and it's the casting director. He had picked it up and looked at it. So I'm trying to keep my hat over my face, because I don't want him to know. He's got my picture in his hand, and I'm trying to not let him recognize, because I don't want him to know that.
You got sunglasses on, a hat.
So I said, "Yeah, you got to call the office. They'll hook you up with it." He says, "Wait a minute, come here." I said, I got to run. I'm busy. He said, "No, I want to talk to you about this one-man band." I said, "No, all right, okay." So I got my head down, and he's trying to look under the bill of my hat. And he's looking at the picture. He goes, "Is it you?" I gotta go. See ya. And I ran out. And so I got maybe 30 feet out of the door. Now, we had cell phones back then. So I
think they were flip phones at the time.
I had a flip phone. And so I'm halfway back to my car, and I get a call from Ellie that says, "Warner Brothers just called. They want to audition you for the one-man band."
He hadn't even made it to the car yet. So we broke every rule in the book, but who makes the rules anyway?
We did the audition. I got the part.
Yeah. You went up against some Japanese guy, and he didn't speak really good English.
There were two other one-man bands. One Japanese fellow who was really good, and he was an organist, and he played down to Santa Monica Pier all the time. And I thought, this guy's going to get it for sure. But the problem was, they wanted you to sing, and his English wasn't that good. So then they had another guy who was like a German Oompa band, who wore lederhosen. He had a bass drum on his back, and had some kind of horn that he played, and just stuff like this, but cymbals.
But we digress. So you get the part, and then you're gonna be for the day. You're gonna call on for the day on ER.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be a one-man band who plays at this party, and the name of the band is The Machine. And
they thought that The Machine was a rock band. Noel Wiley had hired you.
No, and the script, Anthony Edwards thinks that the one-man band thinks that The Machine must be like a rock band. So he's got a big band coming to this party. He's all excited, right? So it turns out it's me. It's a one-man, and it's a funny episode. By the way, I remember the episode. The name of the episode, it's called Gut Reaction. If you look up ER, I think it's on Hulu. And it's season 4, season 5. Find the Gut Reaction episode.
All right, but I am going to, help. What's the word? What am I looking for? To manage expectations.
Oh yeah.
I think you're on for like 2 minutes.
No. I'm on for like 15 seconds.
No, but it was the funniest bit.
Yeah.
But the thing that was fun is you spent the day in this set on Warner Brothers lot. and had a piano, and you played for every cast member of ER for the whole day.
Well, it was unusual because of that particular scene that I was in, they had the whole cast there.
Because it's a party.
It was a party, yeah.
But the best part is what you told me. I wasn't there, although I did drop by, and I sat in one of the director's chairs kind of thing with you, and there's George. I could touch him almost, but I didn't. And there was Julianne Margulies, and they were just chatting. I wanted so bad to say, hey, Ron's from Ohio, and he used to listen to your father who was on the TV there. And you kind of look like each other. Of course, Ron has white hair now, but at the time, I mean, you were a very handsome dude, and you look. I wanted to say so many things, but then there's this unwritten rule you're not supposed to talk. Now I'd say screw that.
It's a caste system. It really is.
It really is. But anyway, so we sat on the set for the day, and then, as you told me, at the end of the evening when they, what do they call it? Cut? Wrap. It's a wrap. Everybody stood up and applauded. They gave Ron a standing ovation for entertaining them all day.
Unfortunately, that's not in the episode.
But it's one of those memories. But that kind of...
Wait a minute. We have a script.
And everyone signed it.
And everyone signs it.
I wonder how much that would be worth.
No, we're going to put it on eBay. So if we sell the script, we might be able to get enough money to have a real studio to shoot this podcast in.
Because we tell people this isn't low budget, this is no budget. But that's another story. But I think the thing that's really fun about Ron and I is that we just never took no for an answer. At least I didn't. You'd love to take no for an answer sometimes, but we didn't take no. But we went on all these adventures. And then, we took our dog. I wrote a book about Schmitty the weather dog because now Ron's a meteorologist. He's working for ABC News across the street from where we live. And he's working with Peter Jennings and Diane Sawyer.
He's back in New York now.
We're back in New York after LA. Yeah. And he was brilliant. But the thing is that I would go out, I'd go, Ron, what's the weather like today? And he'd go, oh, no problem, just wear a sweater. I would freeze. And then I'd say, hey, Ron, what's the weather? And he'd go, you better dress up. It's going to be freezing. And I'd be like, I'd be so hot by the time I got back. He never got it right. So I wrote a story about a little dog, that's my Schmitty, who went and studied the weather so she could help her two-legged dad get a job on TV. And so that was a story. And then I said, but how am I going to sell the book? Barnes & Noble has like a gazillion children's books. What's going to separate me from all those other books? And I remember going once to a convention of some sort, and they said, just do something, like make a statement, go on an adventure, like don't just sit around waiting for the phone to ring. Well, we never did that.
We never had that
problem.
So
I said, Ron, let's take our dog and why don't we go to a school and talk about Schmitty the weather dog? So I would read the book. And then Ron would come out with Schmitty the weather dog, and we had the most perfect little taxi cab outfits. He wore a bow tie, what a surprise, Ron. And I had a long tie, and Schmitty had a little taxi cab outfit on. We were adorable. And the kids, they'd come out, and she even had little taxi cab sunglasses. So Ron would say, it would be 300 kids, maybe 50 kids, 300 kids. In West Virginia, we had 3,000 kids bust in. And he would take the sunglasses off, and it would be like Mick Jagger. Oh, my God, I'm dating myself.
Well, we would say, hey, kids, do you think this Schmitty's a puppet, or do you think she's a real dog?
Raise your hand.
And then a lot of guys would say puppet, a lot of guys say real dog. I say the only way we can figure it out is let's take off her sunglasses.
And we take the glasses off, and like I said, Mick Jagger, the place would erupt. The kids would be squealing with delight. And from then on, and Ron had this little Casio piano that we got from my mother's basement after a flood. And we played, and we had songs. We had weather words, and kids would get buttons if they got the right weather word.
It was fun.
And then I got the teachers up, which was very hard to do. But once they were up there, trying to get them off, forget about it. It was the most fun, and the only complaint we ever got is I remember one principal called me up.
What was the biggest complaint we ever got?
I'm so glad you asked.
Thank you.
The biggest complaint was, when are they going to stop singing that song? We had written a Schmitty the weather dog song, and it was like a worm, and they wouldn't stop for weeks afterwards, and it was great.
Yep.
So I sold books through that. I was kind of like, like Beyonce and Jay-Z, they sell stuff at their concerts. We were selling books. Except the only thing I found out, It was on merch. But the only thing was kids don't carry credit cards. So after the show, you'd have to scrape them off the ceiling. They'd be so excited. Yeah. It really was fun. And then you know what happened? COVID. We were driving back from Yale University, right in that area. There was a school there.
Yeah.
We went all over the country. We went from
Haven.
LA and New Haven. We went from LA to Knoxville, Tennessee, where your daughter lives, and we went everywhere. We did 352 schools. And driving back from the school in New Haven, there was an announcement on the radio, and it said what game was it? Not NCAA. Anyway, whatever game there was.
The other tournament in March.
In March, Aaron, you would know that. But anyway, Madison Square Garden, in the middle of a basketball tournament, in that game, they just went, everybody has to leave. Like, it was in the middle of the...
They canceled the game in the middle of the game.
And we heard that and went, holy crap, because we just did a school for 300
were in an assembly
kids.
With 300 little kids. And
oh, my. So we both did get COVID, and we got over it. At least I thought I did. And then Ron just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And by May, at Memorial Day weekend, he couldn't even walk. I had to wheelchair him to a doctor. And maybe it was my cooking.
No danger. No danger of that.
But, well, we couldn't do takeout. I was doing all the cooking. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere. It was very secretive. You know, everybody lived through it. I don't have to tell them. But come to find out, they said, get that guy to the hospital because your white blood cell count was really low. So they said, really high, sorry. So they said, and I made sure I put the documentation that we had just had COVID and we had the antibodies because we had gone to a clinic, right? And I made sure I put it in there. And when Ron was in there, I finally left once he got processed on don't go on a holiday weekend, that's for sure. But I'm home and with the dogs, and he said, you didn't tell me he had COVID. I go, he didn't. We have the antibody. Well, this guy went all crazy. Well, come to find out, they misdiagnosed him, sent him to another hospital, and he languished there for 130 days or however many days. It was 148 that you were completely. I finally moved him to another hospital where they discovered he had a disintegrating heart valve. He didn't have COVID. They wanted to pull the plug. And I said, no, sirree. I mean, I was in a conference with all these doctors and hospice people and everything. And they said, tell me about Ron Trotta. And I said, he is a 3-time world champion ragtime piano player. He is a meteorologist, worked for all the ABC people. He is amazing. And I had a friend with me. She says, and together they're amazing. And the lady looked at me and said, that Ron is never coming home. And I went, excuse me? I thought we were here to talk about his heart. And they went, nope. They went around the room and told me why we needed to pull the plug. And I said, can we just have a night? I'm going to have a night to think about it. And the next day I had talked to your daughter and son and we said, he's not terminal. What the heck? So I went in and said, I'm thinking about it. But I went in and I knew that one thing that happened was they said the only thing Ron Trotta could move was his big right toe.
That's right.
And I thought, okay. So I went in. He was hooked up to everything. I mean, he was intubated, which is one of the reasons they thought you had COVID. So they intubated you. But the heart problem kind of was the same symptoms. It was just they misdiagnosed him. So I went in and said, Ron, and I talked really loud like you were deaf, but I didn't know if you could hear me or not. You were in a coma, right? You are really sick. Now, you could just let go if that's what you want, or I can fight for you, but you got to give me a sign. And then I remembered the toe thing. So I pulled the sheet off his big right toe, and I said, Ron, if you want me to fight for you, wiggle your big right toe. Nothing. I said it again. And all of a sudden, afterwards, I said it was like my little dog Schmitty's tail, when she knows she's going to get a treat. It started slow, and then it was going crazy. And you moved that toe as much as you could. And I went, all right, you want to fight? We're going to fight. And I went into the nurse's station, and I said, he ain't getting the plug pulled. And they looked at me, and I think everyone was a little, excuse my expression, but they were pissed. They wanted him off. They did not want him to die on the table. And then their number one rating, their brand would be all gone. And they didn't want that to happen. And so I kept him alive. And every day I went in and smiled and did my little dance and tried not to piss them off, but really didn't let them. I mean, you were in and out of comas and you were in and out of infections. You had bed sores. It was terrible. I finally moved him because my dog met another dog whose mother was a cardiologist at another hospital. And she said, I'll get you up there. And we met the most delightful doctor, Dr. Stelzer. Hi, Dr. Stelzer.
Love Dr. Stelzer.
Oh, my God. He said yes. He took him in, and he operated a week later after you took your tracheotomy out, and you were a mess. And guess what? He said it was the easiest heart operation he ever did. He replaced the valve, and he went to rehab, and he's as good as new. But that's why we're in Rhode Island. Tell him why we're in Rhode Island, Ron.
Well, it's all because of the shower, basically.
It's hygiene, folks.
But anyway, that is the story, and I'm very grateful for what Ellie did.
Well, we had
because I'm still breathing, and I can tell you the story about the shower. So what happens is I'm home
in New York.
In our little teeny apartment. We have a clawfoot tub, which in my condition, there's no way I can get myself into that tub and turn the shower on and not fall over or fall out of the tub and break my head, and all her work would be for naught.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I would do, I would call different. We have a very friendly building. It's a close knit bunch, to say the least. And so I would call my neighbors and I say, "Can I use your shower?" And so we did.
They loved it. Well, and mostly women, and they would be like, "Oh, Ron Trotta's coming up to use my shower."
No, they didn't do that.
Yes, they did. Sally loved you. Liz loved you. Everybody loved you. And so they were ready for him, and then they'd have lunch for him, and it became a thing.
It became a thing. So anyway, I thought, listen, in Rhode Island, we have Ellie's childhood home, which is where we are. Ellie's childhood home. Ellie was, 4 years old at this very table?
4 years old, and my dad was smoking Marlboros where you're sitting right there.
But the thing is that they have a shower, and they still have the same shower upstairs that we had in 1968 or whatever.
1960, the house.
So, but I can take a shower here, and then I don't have to call somebody. So that was sort of one of the motivations for coming here. But when I got here...
that was the whole thing. You said to me, "Oh, Ron." Somebody... Oh, our friend Clarice... was coming home from Orlando or someplace. And she said, "Oh, Ron, I just want you to know there's a piano at the airport. And it's sitting there and nobody's playing it. And perhaps maybe you would like to play it." And this is when I became a snob. I went, "Ron, you have played for presidents of the United States. You have played for every association. I mean, you have played for so many important people and done so many fun things. Do you really want to just go and play a piano at the airport?" And I let it go at that. I think I let it go at that. Did I?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much you let it go with that. And I ignored her.
And you sent your resume in?
So I sent an email to the one of the vice presidents.
Yeah, but he was a head of volunteer, right?
Well, it's a volunteer position. So, and I said, "Here's my resume. I'd like to volunteer to play your piano."
And he was like, "Oh my God, we would love it." Timmy. Love Timmy. Hi, Timmy.
Hi, Tim.
Anyway, so Ron went to play one day, and he's been doing it now for 5 years.
Yeah, I can't believe it's 5 years.
5 years. Now, 5 nights a week he plays.
Yep.
And he's just the most amazing. And the thing that's so funny is, well, do you want to say your age?
Well, no, I won't. But
but he plays
if you ever listen to the musical The Music Man, the closing song and The Music Man is 76 trombones. Well, I'm one more trombone than that. So anyway, I was going to say...
Wait. So this is the great thing. So fast forward. Now you're in your 5th year. Tell the story about a certain journalist from Rhode Island.
But before I will do that. That's Mark Patinkin. But I want to say that I've been there so long.
How long have you been there?
That I can tell you what day of the week it is by who comes down the escalator. If so-and-so comes down, I say, "Well, it's got to be Thursday because there's Bob." Yeah.
No.
We have a lot of regulars there.
You mean the business guys
Yes,
and gals?
business travelers, yes.
So you have a
Yeah.
fan club. And here's me. I'm back home taking care of the dogs. Sometimes I'll do a laundry because it needs done, and I'm the one who does it because it's in the basement. And, we don't want Ron to go down to the basement. He gets out of a lot of things. I walk the dogs 2 times a day for the last 5 years. I don't know, add that up. But before, he'd walk the dogs one day and then he'd go, it's your turn. And now he doesn't get to have to do that. So I do the things that poor Ron,
That's
he
right.
can't do it.
I can't do it, so she may do it, right?
So
And if
I'm
you
home
believe
doing that and I hear ping and it's my phone. And I go, maybe I have someone who loves me. I look and it's Ron Trotta at the piano posing with my friends David and Sue Jaffa, who I went to high school with their kids and grandkids. They just came back from Orlando. They were all smiling. They got their arm around Ron. He meets all my old elementary, high school, college friends. He meets all these people. The governor comes by and says, can I get a picture with you? He sends them to me. And I'm at home in my childhood home where I had to go to my room if I didn't do my homework. And now I'm here again. And Ron is out there entertaining the world.
It's so hard.
It really
It's
is.
so hard.
So fast
Well,
forward.
people, I stay late,
Right.
and I stay late, and people have asked me to do interviews and things like that, and I've always sort of resisted it because it's a volunteer position, and
He is quite humble.
I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Wait a minute. You are an enigma because I still don't get it. Because just one interruption there. When we first started dating, there was this I had 8 people at a table in Old Town Alexander, Virginia. And they're like, oh, that guy who plays piano at the fish market, he's going to join us. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. He sat there and ate for the whole time. I think he might have said 5 words. We finished the dinner. I go, what's going on? I go, are you upset? No. He didn't say a word. And that is Ron Trotta. I think you're like George Burns with his cigar.
I feel like I'm at a roast.
You're much more comfortable behind the piano.
That's true.
All right, so back
That's
to
true. Even when I was a kid, I was too shy to ask a girl for a date or to go to dances and things like that, and I cannot dance. But I found that if I would go to a party and play the piano, that suddenly I would get the attention of the girls, and I sort of like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we're back at the airport now, and some guy comes down the escalator. He hears this music,
Well,
right?
Mark had come a couple times.
Yeah, Mark Patinkin,
Yeah.
who is a legendary journalist for the Providence Journal. And I always used to call him Mandy because there's an actor named Mandy Patinkin, and I just found out that's his first cousin.
Yeah.
Who knew? But I digress.
Well, Mark was surprised because I was there at 1 a.m.
Well, his plane got delayed.
Yeah, he came in on a delayed flight, and so he finally said, I'm going to be calling you. And I said, I sort of whined a little bit about it. But the next day he called and said, I just want to talk to you for 15 minutes. And we ended up, Ellie was on the phone, and surprise, we ended up talking about an hour and 15 minutes.
An hour and 15 minutes. You finally looked at your watch and said, I've got to go to the airport. I thought that was so funny. But no, he gets off the plane. I think you're downplaying it. He's like, who the hell? And he said he had wanted to do a story on you before, but things happen and he has somebody else he's going to do something on. But that night he did a video. It's on providencejournal.com if you want to go to it. There's a video and he actually has his watch and it's a digital watch and it says 1:03 a.m. And he shows that and then he shows Ron Trotta playing and he goes up to you and says something like, what are you still doing here? And you said,
I said, I'm waiting for you.
I'm waiting for you. And he said, I had to do the article. Yeah. So he did this wonderful article. And if you can go to Providence Journal, however you get your articles by Mark Patinkin, there's a picture of him as a 3-time world champion ragtime piano player with a huge mustache and dark hair, a fro. I think you had an afro back then.
Well, no comment.
Okay. But there was some fun pictures, so check it out. But how do you? That's one of my questions.
Well,
how do you and why do you play at 1 a.m? I mean, you are 76 trombones plus 1.
I'm glad you asked. And you should remember this. Once upon a time, back in the 90s, maybe, we were on a cruise. It was a fall foliage cruise.
It wasn't Crystal, I don't think.
It wasn't Crystal. No, it was a different cruise line. And It's where you go up to Nova Scotia and you come back down and come to Montreal and look at all the trees. Well, we were in Halifax. I'll never forget. We were in
Nova
Halifax,
Scotia.
Nova Scotia. In fact, there's another story. That was our travel club, I think, that we had at the
The
time.
Boomers Travel Club. So
But-
we've done a lot of things.
But we were in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and you know how people go on excursions. I don't know why they have excursions in Halifax. Basically, it's an island that's got a cannon on a fort. And everybody gets on the bus and they go out and they look at the cannon on the fort. They take pictures of it and they come back to the ship and they have lunch. Well, anyway, so couples all sign up. They get on the bus and off they go. We had two friends on the cruise, George and Barbara Schuler.
yeah,
right.
we knew two Georgia Barbers.
Not to be confused with the other George and Barbara. But anyway, George and Barbara Schuler were on there, and George didn't want to go to see the cannon. But Barbara said, I want to go see the cannon. So Barbara takes the excursion, but George is the only guy, or Barbara's the only person on the tour that doesn't have a spouse with her. So she's there by herself, but off they go to see the cannon. Well,
Meanwhile,
anyway,
we're having fun.
we're all down on the boat having a great time. And so meanwhile, long story short, George comes by later on and says, anybody seen Barbara? Because we're sailing. The ship is gone. We've left Halifax and we're underway. And George is wandering around. He can't find his wife anywhere. And so we're taking pictures of George with all the girls in the bathing suits. Like, when we find Barbara, we're going to show her these pictures. But anyway, it turns out that George was right. Barbara was not on board, and neither were the other 48 people who were on the bus who went to see the cannon. And it turns out that the ship left without him. And turns out the bus was coming back to get back on the ship. And all they saw was the ship, a half a mile away, sailing away, and they're on the shore. So,
Well, the moral of the story of that is...
to make it worse, the captain will not turn the ship around. He's not going to go back and get them. He says, well, if they want to catch up with us, we're going to be going through a dam where there's some locks at the other end of the island. If they get on the bus and run around the island, they can catch us on the other side. And that's going to be...
But the thing was, the reason we knew about this is
good.
because it was a couple and one person was missing the other person. If Barbara...
If George had gone with Barbara, nobody would ever
We'd
know.
still be sailing right now and they'd be on a bus.
They still-
So they had to catch up on a school bus. And the shock absorbers on a school
It
bus.
was horrible. They
And-
got to ride like 5 hours.
And the thing was, the dinner, you want to eat on the ship. You've got so many nights on a cruise ship. You want to eat their fabulous dinner.
Wonderful food.
I think they went to Arby's or Applebee or something. They were, needless to say, I'm using the word again, pissed.
Well, they were going to rendezvous with the ship at 3 a.m.
Yes.
And the ship was going to come up with these docks. So Ellie, this one here, Ellie McGuire says, well, you know what we should do? We should go up and cheer
Welcome
them on.
them in.
Welcome them in. Let's sing to them.
3 a.m.
So we got the song "Hello Dolly," from the musical "Hello Dolly," and we wrote a little parody. It says, "Hello Barbara." Well, hello Barbara. Well, hello. And we were going to sing this, and is all these really pissed off people get off the bus to come back on the ship, and that's what we did. And we had about 100 people up on the bow of the ship that we talked into doing this, and I don't want you to think that it really cheered them up, because it didn't. But it sort of lightened the blow of the horrible day that they had, and it did. We got a couple of glances and actually a couple of smiles in a couple of ways. But
So the point
here's the point of that story. I remember that every time I'm in the airport and I'm playing at 1 a.m. and there's people coming down the escalator, I think about that night. Isn't that funny?
Well, because these people have probably had a delay
Yeah.
or they've been in an airplane cramped in there, and you think about bringing some joy.
It cheers people up.
Wow,
Especially
Ron.
much more at 1 a.m. than at 8 p.m.
You made me fall in love with you even more at that story. I never knew that
If that's
connection.
even possible. Right? If that's even possible.
I can't believe, but that is funny. So late night you feel
People. Yeah, sometimes you wonder why I do it, and you think that's ridiculous. Why do you do that?
I hear the Uber guy
actually,
drop
the-
him off
the
at
most-
2 a.m.
The most fulfilling part of that volunteer job, playing the piano at the airport, comes after midnight. That's when I feel the most fulfilled and I have the most fun. So when those people come in late and they're sort of shocked to see me too. You believe how many people come up and say, "What are you doing up so late?" And I say, "I'm waiting for you."
Well, I think Mark Patinkin said it perfectly. He said something about there's such a difference that it's not just a player piano, that there's a human connection being made. And then I think he said, you are a Rhode Island, you are piano man, the piano man of Rhode Island. And then he said, actually you could be an icon.
I don't
And
think
that's when I dropped the newspaper and knew my life would change forever because now I'm living with a flippin' icon.
Right.
And it's not easy. It is not easy.
I have no comment again. I don't know what to say.
But we have met so many people. One of the things about the cell phone age now with kids on phones and people on phones is you get so bogged down with the phone. I get onto this little soapbox of mine. But when you're on a cruise ship, or all the things we did, it was all about human connections. You notice that? Like we went back to vote. We visited shelters. We went to schools. We got kids excited about, science and weather and saving the planet. We met teachers and principals. You play for all these companies and I would go with you. We met so many people. It wasn't just phoning it in,
Right.
And then remember the people, there's one guy I have to talk about on the cruise ship. You used to play in the salon. And it was like a men's smoking bar.
It wasn't a salon, it was a saloon.
A saloon. Oh, well, darling, I was trying to be like that. But it was an all wood, panel, and Ron would play, and I'd go in and sing maybe an Alan Sherman song or play my spoons. And every night I'd be in my bathrobe in the room after dinner, and Ron had to go and slave over a hot piano. And I would just be sitting down to watch a movie, and bring, the phone would ring, and it was the bartender in the saloon. And he'd say, Ellie, your presence is needed. And I'm like, oh, really? I'd get dressed. I'd go down and we'd play till 2. Actually, when I think about it, we'd play till 2 in the morning.
Absolutely.
And by the end of the cruise, it was usually 12-day cruises, the place would be packed. And we knew everyone's name. We could go
You
along,
knew everyone's name. You were really good at that.
except if I saw him in the bathing suit the next day, I wouldn't know who
you
the
don't
hell
recognize
they
them
were.
at all. And
But when
and then
they
they'd
sat
be
down.
insulted.
But there was one guy who came in and he had an entourage, darling, and his name was Prince Leo of Lignac. Where the hell is Lignac? Ron and I looked at each other and went, okay, who is this guy?
We thought it was a scam.
We thought, oh my God, he had all these young boys with him. Not that there's anything wrong with that,
And
but
Leo was probably in his 60s.
Leo was in his 60s, and if you saw him by the pool, he had a little Speedo on, but he was always nattily dressed, and he commanded a presence.
Yeah, but he was flamboyant.
Flamboyant. That would be a good word for
Yeah.
it. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But every time he would come in, we finally got to the point to realize he's a pretty good sport, so we could sort of make, focus on him for a while.
So we go, it's Prince Leo of Lignac, and everyone would clap.
And
you would,
I would say, hey, everybody, Prince Leo of Lignac's here. Let's all applaud because I think Prince Leo's going to buy us all a drink.
and bada boom. You did that every cruise.
And he
It was
never
fun.
did.
But he never did. But anyway, we just thought, Prince Leo of Lignac, yak. Where is Lignac?
Yeah.
So flash forward. Now we're on a cruise, and there's an ambassador who's taken a liking to us. I don't even remember his name.
But he was an ambassador to a South American country.
I thought for UN maybe or something like that. I don't know. But he had a suite. And on the Crystal Cruise, we're talking bigger than our New York City apartment. I mean, they were beautiful. Not that that's big.
That's
but
not big.
That's a closet. But anyway, it was a beautiful suite. And they would have parties before Ron would go on. So they'd invite us. And we'd be like, yeah. I just wanted to go in and watch a movie in my fluffy bathrobe that they supplied. But anyway, one time we're in with the ambassador and he's, doing his thing, and that was great. And there was a photo album on the counter. So being bored, because I'd seen these people every night getting drunk, I would go and look at the album. One time I'm looking, I turn the page and I'm like, Ron, get over here. And he's talking to someone. I'm like, no, right now, get over here. And he goes, what do you want? Usually that's, what do you want? And I go, look at this. Who's that? And he goes, holy crap, it's Prince Leo of Lignac. He's on this yacht, and there are all these pictures of his yacht in Florida with an onyx bathtub and toilet. And oh my God, it was just so we called over the ambassador and said, excuse me, ambassador.
Who's this?
Who's this? And they go, oh, that's Prince Leo of Lignac. And we're like, you know Prince Leo of Lignac? And he's like, yes, of course I do. And I'm like, he's a real prince.
He said that was his birthday party.
That was his 60th birthday party that he spent over $2 million for his birthday party.
Right.
And we went, holy crap. And then he told us a story that during World War II.
Well, during the occupation.
He
in Europe when the Nazis invaded France and occupied all of
But
Europe.
he helped a lot. He was in the resistance.
Yeah, and underground. Yeah.
Underground. And he helped a lot of people escape. A lot of Jews escape Germany, etc.
Yeah.
So I think Charles de Gaulle
Yeah.
gave him a knighthood. It wasn't a knighthood, but it was
Princedom.
it's a
And made him a
princehood.
prince.
So he named
There's
him,
something like that. I
and
don't
he
know.
Found Lignac. It probably was like a little piece of
Sort of like the Vatican, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. It might be a little island in the, in an atoll somewhere. But he knighted him or did whatever, princed him, Prince,
Yeah.
party like of 1996.
Not that prince.
Not that prince. But he princed him, and that became Prince Leo. So he was a hero.
Yeah.
He was a hero to the French resistance. And here we are thinking, who is this guy? And the epitaph to that story was, I was looking through some old things in a box that I keep, and there was a beautiful Christmas card, and it said, "Much love, Prince Leo of Lignac."
Yep.
He ended up being a stand-up, wonderful
It's a
guy.
wonderful memory. It really is.
But that's the kind of people we met
Yeah,
all
that
the
was
time,
fun.
right? It was
Wonderful
unbelievable.
memory, yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm very awkward to talk to you without a piano. Although you do live here too, and you do have coffee here every morning.
I can go
and
get
breakfast.
one.
You could go get a
Yeah.
piano.
You want to take a break?
Yeah, we'll take a break.
All right.
Let's go get a piano.
We'll be back.
Welcome back to the Shaking the Bushes podcast after hours. I'm here with Piano Man Ron Trotta, and I'm your host, Ellie McGuire, and we also live together. Well, Ron, now I feel like you are more comfortable because you have a piano on your lap.
I always love talking while I play the piano.
I know you're one of the few people that can, in the day, you probably were having a cigarette. You gave that up. You could smoke. You could have a drink.
I used to do a lot of things simultaneously while I played the piano, but I don't think we want to go there.
But you are just amazing. But you can talk through, people will walk by you at the airport, and I know when you played wherever, at parties and stuff, you can keep playing and you're yakking away. And it's like, and now when you think about it, let's think about this. I told that story about the hospital because I was making a point that the fact that you can play piano after 2 brain bleeds, being paralyzed on your whole left side, and talking, you had a tracheotomy, you weren't supposed to talk anymore, and now he's back. And you want to know what? I take all the credit for that. I remind him every day.
That's right. Even though I can do all those things, don't ask me to operate a toaster or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Or pound a nail, for God's sake.
But one of the things you said about playing at the airport also was, it's kind of like your PT. Isn't it your physical therapy?
Yeah, but the most important thing about it is one thing I really believe in is showing up.
Yeah.
I remember. There's a story I never told you. Can I tell you this? Yeah, I've never told you this story. You want to hear a story I've never told you?
I don't know. I'm kind of nervous.
It's about, I believe in showing up. I had an Uber driver last night. He realized my age. He said, "Can you give me some words of wisdom?" And I think,
he asked you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, I really believe you should show up for everything. So when I was in college, I played piano. I was in the band, and I did a lot of gigs, and I played in the rock bands and all this. One day, one guy asked me, he said, "I'm going to sing a song for some gathering or something," and he wanted me to accompany him. And I really didn't want to do it, but I agreed to do it. So I rehearsed with this fellow a few times, and this is very embarrassing. I've never told this story. So the
You
day
heard it
comes-
first
I'm-
on Shaking the
I'm supposed- I'm
Bushes.
supposed to meet this fellow at this the venue. He's going to sing this song. I'm going to accompany him, and I stood him up. I totally stood him up.
Oh,
And,
my.
And it's funny. I still think about what a horrible thing that was, and I felt terrible about it at the time. But for some reason, I just couldn't do it. I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't go do that.
Well, is that when you were first learning to play the piano?
No.
Because you told me the stories about going on. You
No.
only knew one song and you
it
played it.
was just a huge mistake and a terrible thing for me to do. I felt horrible about
And
it.
you, to this day.
I still think about it to this day, and actually it sort of motivates me to show up always, to never not show up anymore. And so that's why I'd like to be so consistent when I go to the airport. I feel like if you show up for everything in life, it'll come to your benefit. So
I think we all have
that was
moments.
a motivational thing. Then there was the other story when I didn't show up. That I think you know this story. We were living in Washington,
Oh,
and
this
I
is
was
tough.
I was performing at the Kennedy Center as an actor, and I was an understudy for John Foley Show, who's been on this podcast.
He's been on this podcast
Anyway,
for Pump Boys and Dinettes.
Right, I was an understudy, and if you're an understudy, and if you're an equity actor, you have to be available up until the intermission of the show before they release you.
At least.
Wait, at least, yeah.
At least to the intermission.
At least to the intermission, and then you're allowed to go. Well, anyway, so I was I was gaming the system at the time, and I had booked a gig.
Yeah, but I think, let me just back up. I think there were a lot of guys who were a little jealous in the show because you were making money at the Kennedy Center, and yet you got to leave and they had to work.
Well, that's true.
But then you did 26 shows.
But still, the horrible thing was I tried to game the system, and I went and I booked a gig on one night, and I told the client,
birthday party.
I said, listen, they wanted me to be there at like 7:30. And I said, well, you know what? Shouldn't be a problem. Our show starts at 6. Intermission comes around 7. It shouldn't be a problem. I'll be there by 8 for sure. 8 o'clock for sure. Well, wouldn't you know, this is going on for months. I would go. They wouldn't put me in the show. The guy would be great. And at 7:45, I'm wrapped. I'm released. Period. 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Except for one night. And that was the night that I booked that job. And so the fellow who I'm understudying for, he says, oh, I feel terrible. I got a cold. I may not be able to make it through the whole show. And I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do?
And this was a 50th birthday party.
It was a big deal.
A doctor and a prestigious
I was the centerpiece of this party.
Yeah.
I was this. They put a grand piano in the middle of the dining room. They surrounded it with chops. I've written a song for it. I mean, it was a big deal to these people. And God, there was like 60 people supposed to come, and it's down at Mount Vernon, and it's a big. Oh my God! So I called the client. I said, I'm going to be just a little bit late, but hang on, I'll be there by 8:30 for sure. They said, okay. And
it's a bit of a drive from the Kennedy Center down to the house
too.
Got to
go down to Mount Vernon. Oh my God, I'm starting to feel terrible. And I think those guys must have found out. Anyway, so
I think he was being a little mean.
8 o'clock comes, and he's still. I'm not released yet. And 8:30 comes, and I'm not released yet. And 9 o'clock comes, and I'm not released yet. And 9:30 comes, and I am not released yet. And I am. I can't even think of the word.
Your stomach must have been in knots.
Oh, I'm dying, and I have to call this client and say I'm going to be there. And so finally, at 10:30, I'm allowed to go. And I know
I swear they knew, and they would.
And
they
I
would
know
give
the
you a hard
party's
time.
over, and I don't know what to do. So I drove down to Mount Vernon.
This is the most brave thing I've ever heard anyone
and
do
there are
before.
people coming out of the party. The party's over, and I walk in, and there's one lady sitting at a table, and all the other tables are empty. I sat down. I started playing, and it was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. I'm getting these glaring looks from the client and everybody else. And
what a surprise!
And what a surprise! It was the most horrible experience of my life. And so that was one time that I didn't show up, but it's because
but the moral
it was because I was trying to be,
you double dipped.
I was trying to double dip. So I've sort of learned a couple lessons in my life, and those are the two biggest lessons.
And I think that's the brilliance of older people is that there are many lessons you can learn.
Right.
But I do think you're very comfortable behind the piano. I don't know. I just think you're amazing, and the fact that you were paralyzed and now you do it, and I think it keeps you nimble, don't you think?
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I can do that at the airport, and I don't know what else to say, but yes,
I know what else to say.
It's been a miracle for you. It has literally been a miracle for me.
I know what else to say.
I think it keeps me alive.
I know what else to say.
What?
Mark Patinkin, I almost said Mandy. Mark Patinkin said in the article that, dear Ron, what's the most, what makes you tick? What's your purpose? Oh, no, what makes you happy, or what is it about playing piano? And you said, it's the highlight of my day.
It is the highlight of my day.
And I thought to myself, when I read that sentence, and I thought to myself, what does that make me? And I said to you, that's the highlight of your day. Where do I fit in here?
Now, wait a minute. You are the highlight of my life. Playing at the airport is just the highlight of my day. But for my life, you are definitely the highlight.
Good save. And this is why we have been together. When you think about it, 35 years. I mean, we've lived in tiny cruise ships.
Yeah.
We've lived in a tiny apartment in New York City, and we haven't killed each other. But there's still time.
Yeah, that's right. There's still time.
But I'm so thrilled that you're on my podcast.
Yeah, folks, Ellie did save my life back when I was really ill, but I think she's rethinking it every day.
I'm not rethinking it.
Aw.
But I have to say that getting you to this table, my kitchen table of my childhood home, literally, you knew my mom when she was sick. I mean, you knew my mom for many years. She'd come out and visit us. And so you've been, and oh, that's a good point. That's what a great positive note to go out on. Notice my little double entendre. But the note to go out on is my mom. She was struggling. She went blind. She had macular degeneration. And then she had dementia. And she never wanted to go to a nursing home. And I said, you're not going to go, because even though we could strangle each other, I loved her to death. And she was my love. And so I said, Mom, we're not going to, and we had people come here, and this became her residence. She had round the clock help. We came and lived here for a couple of years to help her at night, so we wouldn't have that expense. And so she really got her dream as she lived here. But she was out of it most of the time. And we'd sit right at this table. She would sit where I'm sitting. Kind of, I'm getting chills here. And you would bring that Casio piano, that was her piano, out and would stop playing. So a woman, she had no mind left. You know, you could, she might not even know if you wanted cereal or eggs. She didn't even have an answer. But when it came to music, something miraculous. And they say that happens with people who have brain injuries or whatever. He would play all these Irish tunes.
This was her song.
From Tipperary, and she'd start singing or smiling or just happiness just bursted on her. And it really got to the point where I think she, forget me as a daughter, she wanted Ron as a son. She loved you to death, and it was because of the piano, because it certainly couldn't be your personality. I'm kidding.
I love that song.
Yeah, but you always was so good to her. But the music opened up her brain, and she could still sing Danny Boy, and she did all these songs. That is a saddest song. But so you, to the end of her life, played music, and I think that's what that just makes me cry to think about it. You can't do this.
Okay.
All right, fine.
Go on.
But I think that's what music to me is medicine.
Absolutely.
And you are the medicine man.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. I have an appointment in the living room, and I'm supposed to be there in about 3 minutes. So I don't want to cut it short, but I don't want to be late.
You had a long commute.
Right.
But this is just great, because really you have been the toughest interview to get, because he did not want to come and talk about himself. There's something about you. I'm going to find out someday why, but you do not like to talk about yourself. I'd like to think it's humility, but it also could be that you were a bank robber and you don't want to talk about your past.
Actually, I'm in witness protection.
Ah.
And I've been in it for 45 years. I've never told you this.
Well, on that musical note, thank you so much for coming to Shaking
Ellie,
the Bushes
thank you for having
podcast.
me at this Shaking the Bushes podcast. This has been the high point of my day.
Oh, the high point. Yay! Psst. Hey, thanks for watching the Shaking the Bushes podcast. And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, and see that little bell there? You could click on that, and that will notify you for the next episode of Shaking the Bushes. Okay, I gotta go. And we never had this conversation.